Hello, boys and girls, and welcome back to the Bible Story Corner. I am so excited to start this new series with y'all. Now, we're actually going to be learning all about the last 24 hours of Jesus' life here on earth. Now, a lot took place during those 24 hours, and it all started in the upper room of a house in Jerusalem. So Jesus gathered all 12 of his disciples there in order to have a meal with them. So let's see what happens. This meal was part of the feast of the Passover, and it's often called the Last Supper because it was the last time Jesus had a meal with his disciples. After the meal was over, the disciples and Jesus began to move away from the table and relax. While the disciples talked, they noticed Jesus get up, take off his outer robe, wrap himself in a towel, and grab a bowl of water. The disciples weren't sure what Jesus was planning to do, but they were very curious. Suddenly, Jesus began to kneel down and wash the feet of the disciples. Now, you need to understand something. In Jesus' time, the act of washing someone's feet was left for the servant to do. Now, everybody wore sandals in those days, and they didn't have cemented roads or paved roads or anything. They had dirt and dust. And whenever they would walk from wherever, their feet would get dirty and dusty. And then before you actually walked into your house or someone else's house, a servant would come and wash your feet before you walked in and dirtied up the whole house. Okay, let's continue. So when Jesus got to the disciple named Peter, he said something. Peter said, "Master, you will never wash my feet." He felt that Jesus shouldn't be doing something like that, because after all, Jesus was a very important man. He was the Son of God. He shouldn't be doing a servant's job. But Jesus insisted that he wash Peter's feet, so Peter let him. After he had finished washing the feet of every disciple, Jesus stood and taught something very important. He said, "Follow my example. Do for others as I have done for you." And he went on to teach that anyone who wants to be the greatest in the kingdom of God should take on the role of a servant. Wow, that was pretty cool. So remember, if you really want to be a leader, you must learn to serve others and put yourself last. Now, also remember that you're going to learn that how to be the greatest, you must choose to humble yourself and become a servant to others. Because after all, that's what Jesus did.
Hello, agents in training. Let's talk about a very important power verse. And it says, "Those who are the greatest among you should take the lowest rank, and the leader should be like a servant." Luke 22:26. That was a great power verse.
Yes. Okay. Almost there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Excuse me.
Success! You did beautifully.
What did I do?
You did exactly what you were supposed to do. According to my calculations, you were going to say excuse me at precisely 11:15 a.m. March 7th, 2021. And you did. You were right on time. I love it when things are on time.
I love to be able to breathe.
Hey, that's what Abraham Lincoln said when his grandmother knitted him a sweater that was too tight. 7 years ago. This sweater is very tight and itchy.
What? How could you possibly know what Abe Lincoln has to say about a sweater?
Oh, forgive me. I'll explain. Theodora Tokopoulos is my name. And I know what Abe said because I was there. For I am a time traveler.
There's no such thing as time travel.
That's just what Albert Einstein said before I taught him how to do the robot. E equals MC squared, word to your mom. He left that part out.
Wow. Okay, listen. Thea, what's your name again?
Theodora Tokopoulos. But you can just call me TikTok. I mean, everybody else does. You know, like a clock.
Whatever, listen. We don't have time for this. We're starting a really important lesson today.
Of course you have time. There are 86,400 seconds in a day. And I'm a time traveler, remember? And you started a new series called 24, and you're learning all about how to be the greatest.
Well, that's true. Okay, Miss Time Traveler. If you already know what's going to happen, what am I going to say next?
And you're going to say, pickle juice.
Pickle juice.
See, you said it.
Oh my goodness, no. I was going to say that the first step to being the greatest at anything is to be a servant.
Exactly. We must be a servant like Jesus. I mean, he was the Son of God, but he chose to humble himself, so he didn't go around acting like he was better than everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. It's easy to brag about yourself and act like you're better than everybody else, but you're only truly going to be great when you put others first and you last, just like Jesus did.
Exactly. I knew you were going to say that. Put others first and put yourself last. Yes! Right on time.
For what?
Well, I've got a hair appointment with Cleopatra in exactly 2,000 years. Give or take a century.
This is ridiculous. If you're really a time traveler, where's your time machine?
I couldn't possibly tell you that, but I'll give you a clue. It involves an eggplant and a goat.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, who says it has to? Well, I'll see you later, agents. I'm TikTok and I'm out of time. See ya.
Well, that was interesting. Anyway, let's learn more about how to be the greatest. Over to you, Agent Fonta.
Hello, agents in training. I am Agent Fonta and this is Agent LaCroix. And you're gonna learn more about how to be the greatest.
Today's lesson is called How to Be the Greatest. Have you ever wanted to be the greatest at something? Maybe there was a spelling bee at school and you studied all of the spelling words for weeks just so you could end up on the stage as the last speller standing and be presented with that first place ribbon. At that moment, everyone would know I am the greatest.
Or maybe you wanted to win that fitness meet and be the fastest runner out there. And you practiced and you practiced, and guess what? You won first place and you took home the first place trophy. How did that make you feel? Did that make you feel on top of the world? Didn't you feel like you were number one because you got a first place trophy?
Maybe you dream of one day owning your own company and people have to call you the boss. You don't have to listen to anybody. You are in charge, you are the greatest, and you are the boss.
We all have dreams like that at times. There is a longing deep inside of us all to be the greatest at something or to be the boss. You know, the disciples of Jesus often had those same dreams. They were constantly arguing over who was the greatest. And that's why Jesus taught them the lesson he taught them at the Last Supper. By washing their feet, Jesus showed them that even the boss, which was Jesus, must be a servant to others. Do you want to be the greatest? Well, to be the greatest in God's kingdom, I must be a servant like Jesus.
Jesus didn't act like he was better than everyone else. Jesus didn't treat other people as less of a person than he was. Jesus served others. Not only did Jesus serve others by washing the disciples' feet, but Jesus served the hurting by healing their sickness and disease. Jesus served the lonely by spending time with them and being their friend. Jesus served every person he came into contact with. He understood that being the greatest was not about bragging and treating others as less than he was. Being the greatest meant that you have the responsibility to help and bless others. If you want to be the greatest, you must follow Jesus' example and serve others. Not only that, but if you want to be the greatest, I must humble myself first.
So Jesus was the teacher, yet he chose to become the servant. Now, nobody made him do it. He chose to do it. He chose to humble himself. And that means he chose to take on a role that was less than what he could have chosen. Now, Jesus could have forced the disciples to wash his feet, but that's not what he did. He chose to humble himself and take on the role of a servant.
You and I must make that same choice. When you see someone in your class that is hurting and lonely, don't wait for someone to force you to be their friend. Choose to humble yourself and be their friend. Don't think of yourself as better than they are. Jesus humbled himself, and so should you. Finally, if I want to be the greatest in the kingdom of God, I must put others first and me last.
So everywhere he went, Jesus put others first. Instead of saying, "Hey, I'm the greatest," Jesus showed us that others were more important. So he prayed for others, and he helped others, and he healed others, and he fed others, and even bled and died for the sins of others. So Jesus did not put himself first. Jesus lived in a way that put others ahead of himself. Okay, so it's not easy, but we must follow Jesus' example. He never once demanded that people treat him as the king that he is. Instead, he took on the role of a servant and put others first, and himself last. Can you imagine what a group of kids would look like if they lived like this? Others first and me last? I mean, I imagine that every kid in the city would want to come to that church because they knew they would be treated with kindness, love, and care. And if you want to be the greatest, then you have to be like Jesus. Jesus was a servant, and we should be too.